This conference will now be recorded.
So there's a lot of talk about in Israel extending sovereignty to different parts of Judea and Samaria, what some call the West Bank, what I prefer to call Judea and Samaria. And there's pushback coming from some places, even though everyone agrees that ultimately there will be an agreement and certain parts will remain under Israeli sovereignty. And I think the Israeli position is we can't give the Palestinians a forever veto by their just refusing to show up to the table. So therefore, if they don't want to discuss, we'll move ahead to our parts, and then we can, whenever they're ready, discuss other parts. But all of this, I think, speaks to the eternity of the Jewish people and the incredible aspect that we've returned back. Everything okay, Chayefka? That we've returned back after thousands of years, and we're back home. And we're not interested in needing anyone else's approval and acceptance, but the Shavu Banim, the children have returned back home to their land. And this really speaks about, like I said, the eternity of the Jewish people. So let's look at some of the sources first from elsewhere, and then we'll come to our Torah sources. Firstly, very famously, Mark Twain wrote, "The Egyptian, the Babylonian, and the Persian rose and filled the planet, with sound and splendor, then faded to dream stuff and passed away. The Greek and the Roman followed, made a vast noise, and they are gone. Other people have sprung up and held their torch high for a time, but it burned out, and they sit in twilight now, or have vanished." There was a comedian who came and spoke at the Solomon Society last year when they were honoring Steve Kaufman. And he mentioned the great Greek society, incredible. What's left from them today? Yogurt. That's what they got. The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was, exhibiting no decadence, no infirmities of age, no weakening of his parts, no slowing of his energies, no dulling of his alert and aggressive mind. All things are mortal, but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. And Mark Twain ends off with his question, what is the secret of his immortality? Story is told that King Louis the 14th of France once asked Pascal, who was the renowned mathematician and philosopher, give me proof of the supernatural. And according to this story, Pascal answered, why the Jews, Your Majesty, the Jews. So what can we attribute the survival of the Jewish people? Tolstoy wrote, that's source number 1, in 1908. What is the Jew? What kind of unique creature is this, whom all the rulers of all the nations of the world have disgraced and crushed and expelled and destroyed, persecuted, burned, and drowned, and who despite their anger and their fury continues to live and to flourish? What is this Jew whom they have never succeeded in enticing with all the enticements in the world, whose oppressors and persecutors only suggested that he deny and disown his religion and cast aside the faithfulness of his ancestors? The Jew is the symbol of eternity. He is the one who for so long had guarded the prophetic message and transmitted it to all mankind. A people such as this can never disappear. The Jew is eternal. He is the embodiment of eternity. When he writes that we have guarded the prophetic message, reminds me of a great story that Rav Yaakov Weinberg, Zatzal, of blessed memory, Rosh Yeshiva of Ner Yisroel, who was mine and Natalie's Mesader Kedushin. So the J witnesses would come knocking on his door, wanting to speak to him about the message of the prophets. And his wife would always send them away and say, "Thank you, we're doing all right." Well, one day they had the misfortune of knocking on the door when the Rosh Hashiva was home. "Yes, can I help you?" "We like to teach you the words of the prophets." "Oh, you like to teach me the words of the prophets?" "Yes, we like to share with you the teaching of the prophets." Which prophets are you referring to?" "Oh, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel." "Oh, you want to share with me?" So he said to them, "When your great-great-great-grandparents were painting themselves blue and running around trees and worshiping those trees, my great-great-great-grandparents were sitting at the feet of these prophets, learning their words and soaking in their teachings. And you want to tell me what the message of the prophets is? You want to teach me the words of the prophets." So, as Tolstoy wrote, we were the ones who have guarded the prophetic message and shared it with mankind. And Churchill wrote, 1920, "Some people like Jews and some do not, but no thoughtful man can doubt the fact that they are beyond all question the most formidable and the most remarkable race which has ever appeared in the world." Okay, so if a nation has longevity and perseverance, what would we normally attribute that to? So, what normally defines a nation? Tell me, what normally defines a nation? What defines a nation, my friends? In today's world?
First of all, language.
Language. Absolutely. Language defines a nation. What else?
Ancestry, beliefs.
Good. History, ancestry, beliefs. What else?
Customs.
Customs. Good.
Land, boundaries.
Traditions.
Land, boundaries. Yeah. Yeah. So the three things, basic categories, are land, language, and history, as you all mentioned. Those are the things that normally will define a nation and attribute to their longevity. Source number 3, Rabbi Mutzi Berger and Rabbi Usher Resnick in the 7 Wonders of Jewish History from aish.com. Always a wonderful site for people to go to get some beautiful teachings and to learn a lot. There actually is a person who converted and learned almost all of their information from aish.com and became more knowledgeable than many people who were born Jews and had some Jewish education. So they write, the fact that we are an eternal nation becomes even more amazing when we consider that the Jews don't even possess the basic characteristics that define a nation: land, language, and history. Do the Jewish people have a land in common? Well, for 2,000 years, the vast majority of the Jewish people never set foot in the land of Israel. All of the nations in the world had a land in common that they settled and lived in. But for the majority of our history, the Jews never had a land to call their own. Israel was a common dream, yes, but not a common land. Yes, Jews all over the world would face towards Israel, towards Jerusalem, when we would pray. It was a common dream, but not a common land. Okay, how many of you speak Hebrew? How many speak it well? For the vast majority of our history, most Jews didn't speak the language. Sure, the Torah portion was read aloud in Hebrew in shul, but the spoken languages were Aramaic, Ladino, Yiddish, French, English, Russian, and many others. How about a common history? Oh, we do have a common history, right? But you've got to go back pretty far to get to that. For the last several centuries, Jews have been scattered across the globe. Our teachers on the Talmud are Rashi from France, and you have Tosfot from Spain, and others from Germany. We certainly don't have a history in common. You go back very far, yes, but go back 1,000 years or 700 years? Hardly. So not only are the Jewish people poor candidates for being an eternal nation without a common land, language, or history, we're hardly candidates to be any kind of a nation at all.
But Rabbi, we've got a history. You can't rule out history because we've got a long history. Maybe
Yes,
not in the last 500,000 years, but previously.
yes, we have a long common history. But how far back do we need to go for it to be common? Does your family have a common history with Michelle Hassan's family? Not really, right? My family came from Hungary and from Austria. Your family came from Lithuania, right? Right? And at least those were cultures that were somewhat similar, right? And now go to the Sephardic world, from the Arab countries where they hailed from. Granted, we go back to biblical times, right? When they were running around trees, we were sitting by the feet of the prophets, all of us together. But that goes back a long, long time. That goes back a very, very long time. So what has been our strength? Right? Physical strength? No one would say it's the physical strength of the Jews that has given us our perseverance. Material wealth? There are times that Jews have been very wealthy and times that Jews have been very poor. And at every time you have wealthy Jews and you have poor Jews. Right? We do have a system set in place to take care of one another. And I think to this date, philanthropy amongst Jews is higher than it is amongst the general population. But it's a hard argument to make to say that it's our material wealth that has helped us to survive. Now, I always laugh. I've said this many times. When you walk to the kosher section of a supermarket, I always think that the Gentiles must think all the Jews eat is gefilte fish and matzah balls, right? With an occasional matzah and grape juice, because that's all there is in the kosher section, right? Of course, they don't realize that we eat everything else, and these are certain items also, right? But certainly, it's not our common secular culture that has preserved us, because the common secular culture always changes from one generation to another. Now, it's interesting. The official view of Christianity for much of the period of the Jewish exile was that the suffering of the Jewish people, well, we were supplanted by Christianity, and the Jews were serving as a permanent example of what befalls a nation that has fallen from God's grace. Pope John Paul II adjusted that, but the whole attitude had to evolve with the establishment of the Third Jewish Commonwealth and the State of Israel in the land of Israel. Because we weren't supposed to have this, according to their view, there should not have been this resurgence. There should have been this continuous decline. And that's why many of the archives are being opened up now with Pope Pius, funny name for him, who was the Pope during the Holocaust. But there were many, many Christian theologians who understood the Holocaust as, yeah, that's what makes sense, right? If you fall from God's grace, that's what makes sense. Ultimate demise. But the phoenix arising from those ashes and the reestablishment of the state of Israel, right? That is something that caused that attitude to have to gradually evolve. So what is it? What is that one common factor that the Jews have shared throughout all ages, throughout all the lands, under all circumstances? And that factor is our Torah, our mitzvot, our commandments. That is the only thing that we have shared throughout. As different as the family histories might be, when a Sephardic person sits in an Ashkenaz minyan or an Ashkenazic person in a Sephardic minyan, they are amazed at how similar. There are slight differences. We add a few words here, take out a few words there. This we sing, that they sing. Right? The Torah might look a little bit different in terms of the outer wrapping. Ours is laid down on a table. Theirs is stood up. They do Haggadah when they first take it out. We do Haggadah before we put it back, the lifting of the Torah. But essentially, certainly the structure of the prayers are the same. And not only the structure the same, but the actual prayers are the same. And of course, every single letter of the Torah is identical, is the same. So in what we share in common is Torah, is mitzvot, and it has been our adherence to the Torah that has prevented the assimilation. And of course, it has built a relationship between us and God. So Torah has, in a very, very practical way, kept us a people without, right, helping to prevent assimilation. And certainly in a spiritual sense, that is what has kept us going and kept us as a people. So let's go now to some of the Torah sources on this. Yes?
But besides what do you mention? The Torah gives us mitzvahs. It's also ethics and law.
That's all included. Yes. That's all included in mitzvahs, right? That's all included in mitzvahs, Ian, right? You know,
Yeah.
all of the bein adam lechavero, between man and man mitzvot, are all about ethics, about perfecting ourselves, right? And the laws are the mitzvot. Absolutely. We always say there were 2 tablets, 5 of them between man and God, 5 between man and man. Yes, so the ethics. And when the Torah says, Kadoshim tihiyu, you shall be holy, Ramban explains that mitzvah to mean an overarching command, meaning don't just fulfill the minutia of the law and stay within the parameters. Make sure you are kadosh, make sure you are a holy person. Make sure that each and every mitzvah changes you and transforms you and turns you into a person who's always connected with God. Absolutely. So let's go to Shemot, the book of Exodus, chapter 19, verse 5, for source number 4. V'ata, and now m'shamoa tishmu b'koli, if you will heed my voice, ushmartem et briti, and keep my covenant, v'item li segula, you will be a treasured nation to me, mikol amim, from amongst all the nations. Ki li kol haaretz, because all the land is mine. Okay, that's by the Exodus. We had a difficult 40 years. It was supposed to be a quick entry into the land of Israel, but because of different missteps on our part, the Meraglim, the spies, etc., it became a 40-year ordeal. But there, Devarim, Deuteronomy, towards the very end already, we learn, the Pasuk says, Et Hashem hamarta hayom liot lecha le'elokim, v'lechet b'drachav, v'lishmor chukav mitzvotav mishpatav, v'lishmor b'kolo. You have taken God today to be a special connection to you, a God for you, to go in his ways, keep his statutes, his commandments, his laws, and to heed his voice. V'Hashem hamircha hayom. And God has taken you today to be a treasured nation. Really, hamircha means to take as a treasure, right? So the English really should have better read, you have taken God today to be a treasure for you, and God has taken you today to be a treasured people, nation to him. Liot lo la'am segula, kasher diber lecha, v'lishmor kol mitzvotav. Right, as he spoke to you, and to keep his commandments. This covenant is eternal, right? Other nations, other religions who want to supplant Judaism, right? To present Judaism as 1.0, but now we've reached 2.0 or 3.0, right? We have the new version, right? Has just come out, right? So what do they need to do? Usually what they need to do is say, we are the new Israel, right? We have replaced you, right? And therefore all of the specialness that God spoke about Israel, guess what? It's not you. Some will say we're not the descendants, right? We're, what do they say, from Kazakhstan? I forget where they say we come from, right? We're not the descendants. Or if we are the descendants, we have been replaced, supplanted by the new Israel. And Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, he addresses that. Ahavat Olam, source number 6. Ahavat Olam ahavtich, al kei mashachtich chesed. Ahavat Olam, and we say this nightly in our Mariv prayers. Ahavat Olam, eternal love. Ahavtich, right? I have loved you. Al kei mashachtich chesed. Thereby I've drawn out kindness for you. Right? We start the blessing before the Shema in the morning with Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu. With tremendous love you have loved us. And in the evening, prayers, Mariv, evening darkness, that corresponds to dark times in our life, both personal and national, right? Avram is the one who established the morning prayers. Avram was the sunrise of the nation. And Yaakov, who went through such difficulties, he is the one who established Mariv. And therefore at Mariv, at evening services, when we introduce the Shema, the paragraph, the blessing before is Avat Olam. With eternal love, I have loved you. Yirmiyahu goes further. Later on in that very same chapter 31, source 6 was chapter 31, verse 2. Source 7 is the same chapter 31, verses 34 and 36. Kol Mar Hashem. This is what Hashem says. Natan shemesh l'or yomam. Chukat yared kochavim l'or laila. Who established the sun to illuminate the day, and the moon and the stars to light up the night. Ragayam v'yamu galav, who causes the sea to stir up, v'yamu galav, and causes the waves to rise up and to roar. Who does all that? Hashem Tzvakot Shemo. God, Lord of his hosts, his name. Im yamushu achukim ha'elim milfanai Hashem. Gam zera Yisroel yishpedu miyot goy lefanai kol hayamim. If these natural laws should ever be removed, only then shall the offspring of Israel, shall the zera Yisrael, yishpetu, Shabbat, rest, cease, miyot goy lefanai, from being a nation before me, kol hayamim, for all time. So if we asked, what is the key to our eternity? The key to our eternity is twofold. As a nation, the key to our eternity is this guarantee from God that we will always be there. As individuals, that will depend on our connection to the Jewish people, our connection to the Torah of the Jews. That's what it will depend on. Individuals have become lost. A tremendous amount of individuals have become lost. But the Jewish people as a whole, we have this eternity, and this is one of the sources for it. But a very, very clear source from Yirmiyahu HaNavi, from Jeremiah the prophet. Sun's up there, moon's there, stars are there, the ocean is there, the Jews are there. That's how it's going to be. Lefanai kol hayamim, to be before me at all times. The Talmud, which is the oral Torah, Babylonian Talmud, source number 8, Yoma 69b. The continued existence of the Jewish people is proof of God's existence. The Gemara there says, Shilmaldi Marosh al Baruch Hu, were it not for the fear of the Holy One, blessed is He, Heach Uma Achat Yichola Litkayem Bein Ha'umot. How could this single nation survive amongst all the nations? And of course, keeping in mind that these nations were very, very fortunate that as of today, the United States has been a very, very incredibly welcoming place for us, protecting us. You know, during the marches in Los Angeles a short while ago, a number of Jewish shuls were damaged. Actually, we took out the Sifrei Torah from the shuls in advance, making sure that just as an added safeguard, as we did in Beth Jacob also. The Sifrei Torah came to my house, and they were here. Not there were any direct threats, but as liyeta bitachon, as we say, as an added safeguard. Right? I brought them back yesterday, but yeah. And some people were comparing it, were invoking the word Kristallnacht, and that troubled me, quite honestly. Right? You can't compare where the police force is participating to where the police force is protecting. That's the tipping point where, chas v'shalom, I think everybody takes out their passports and starts to book flights. Right? And Baruch Hashem, we are nowhere near that tipping point. But that's what's kept us going. How could this single nation that has been so oppressed, right? Elsewhere, I didn't have the whole quote, but Mark Twain writes that we've overcome the odds with a hand tied behind our back. Right? Jews can't be in this business. Jews can't be in that business. Jews can't own land. Jews can't own factories. So then what do we have to go into? Banking. So now it's the Jewish bankers It's like, you can't win, right? You can't win. But it goes a lot deeper than that. And this is something that I've mentioned often. The elevator 60-second, 30-second to 90-second pitch. When a person says, what are these? I keep hearing about these mitzvot. What are mitzvot? Mitzvot are ways that physical people in a physical world with physical surroundings can touch eternity. That's what a mitzvah is. It's a spiritual act that's done in the physical world that bridges the gap, that connects the physical to the spiritual. And we say the spiritual, what does that mean? Godliness. That means God. The only way that we can become eternal, which is one of the lines that we have in the Yizkor service readings that we have, we become eternal when we touch, when we connect ourselves to the only thing which is eternal, that being God. When we connect ourselves to eternity, we too become eternal. If we don't connect ourselves to eternity, we live our life, and like every other organism on this planet, at a certain point, this organism is no longer functioning as an organism, and it reaches its demise. That's in a physical sense, that's what we are. We say by the Yisroel, we are like unto a breath. That's what we are. But when we connect to that which is eternal, we too become eternal. And that on a metaphysical level is the eternity of the Jewish people. As we say each week at our Shabbat Mincha service, we say Ata Echad, source number 9, prayer of Shabbat Mincha, Ata Echad v'shimcha Echad, umi ka'amcha Yisroel, goy Echad ba'aretz. You are one God, your name is one, and who is comparable to your nation Israel, one nation in the land. So we have this oneness that resembles, so to speak, the oneness of God. And that is what we connect to. That is what we become a part of. We manifest that oneness. And the last source from Shlomo Malcha and Sefer HaMaor on Parshat Baha'alotcha, which happens to be our Parsha this week. For the nation of Israel is God's throne of glory, right? We talk about God's throne of glory. What does that mean? Kisei HaKavod, his throne of glory. What does that mean? There's no physicality to God. So what is this throne of glory? So whenever we're using anthropomorphism, we're taking a term that doesn't really apply. We're borrowing that term in order to understand the facet of that which we are trying to describe. Kisei. Kisei is a chair. What does a kisei do? We're all sitting comfortably. What are our chairs doing right now? They're holding us up. They are holding us up. A kisei supports our weight. That's what a chair does. Kisei HaKavod, the throne of glory, is that which holds up God's kavod, that which holds up God's glory. What holds up God's glory? people acting in a godlike, glorious manner. Right? So many stories in the Talmud of Rav Shimon ben Menasya, Shimon ben Shet, I forget exactly who it was, who bought a donkey from a Gentile. And the donkey came, and he noticed that there was a leather strap around the neck of the donkey and a little pouch, and there was a diamond. So he told the people who brought it to him, send the diamond back to the person who sold me the donkey. He sold me a donkey, didn't sell me a diamond. When that person received it, he said, Baruch Elokah, to Rabbi Shimon ben Shetach, I think. Blessed is the God of Shimon ben Shetach. I'm sure he said, thank you, blessed is the God. Because he understood he was acting on a godly imperative. That is Kisei HaKavod. That's 2,000 years ago in the time of the Talmud. A few years ago in New Jersey, and it was on all of the news and talk shows, there was a young rabbi who bought a desk on Craigslist. How much does a desk cost on Craigslist? $30, $40, $50. Anything more than that, you'll go to IKEA and get something new, right? So you spent $40, $50 on a desk, Craigslist. Went to the house of the woman who sold the desk, gave the money, took the desk into the back of whatever it was, brought it home. When he tried to bring the desk into the room where he wanted the desk to be, the desk was too wide to fit through the door. So he had to take it apart. First thing you do and take it apart, you take out the drawers. He took out the drawers. He saw there was an envelope sitting behind one of the drawers. Opens up the envelope. I forget if it was $40,000 or $90,000 in the envelope. Calls the woman and said, did you have an envelope with cash? She said, yes. How did she forget? Well, she put it into the desk. It fell behind. She couldn't find it, but she knew she had it somewhere. So it must be not in the desk, must be somewhere else. So what was her response? Blessed is the God of this young rabbi. Just a few weeks ago, I read about my old hometown in Israel, Telstone of the Judean hills. Something happened that was unprecedented, at least for this company, this insurance company in Israel. The family jewelry was lost, was stolen. So they made a claim with their insurance company, and they received 50,000 shekel, whatever it was. During this whole coronavirus, everyone's home. It was before Pesach. They did a very, very thorough Pesach cleaning. And here it was, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later, they found that pouch of jewelry. So what do? They called the insurance company to tell them, we found the jewelry. You reimbursed us for jewelry, but we found the jewelry. And they paid back the insurance company for the money that had been sent to them because we have the jewelry. Kisei is that which supports. Kavod is honor. The Kisei Kavod of God is a anthropomorphism to that which holds up God's honor. What holds up God's honor? When we act in a godly, glorious manner, then we are the Kisei HaKavod. Source 10, for the nation of Israel is God's throne of glory. Then it follows that connection. Just as he is without any limit, so Israel are without any limit. This is the meaning of the verse. You, O God, dwell forever. Ata Hashem liolam teishev. You dwell forever. Kisacha l'dor v'dor. You dwell forever. Your throne is from generation to generation. The throne is us. That we, this eternal nation, hold up God's honor when we act as an eternal nation, when we are connected to that which gives us our eternity. Yirtzeh meaning, ki kamosha HaKadosh Baruch Hu nitzchi, kach Yisroel he nitzchiyim, shehem kisei kvodo. Just as God is eternal, so too Israel is eternal, shehem kisei kvodo. Because we are that throne that holds up God's honor. And that is the imperative on each and every one of us, that our actions and our words and even our thoughts are such that they hold up God's honor. If we want to, as individuals, as the nation, Yirmiyahu told us, there's a sun outside, there's moon, there's stars, there's an ocean, there are waves, there's Israel. That's what God told Yirmiyahu. Avat olam, an eternal love. No matter how many others will come along and say, we've replaced you, we're the new Israel. Avat olam avtich. It is eternal love that I have loved you. If there are waves, ocean, sun, moon, stars, there's Israel. Because of that avat olam avtich, because of that eternal love that powers us. As individuals, that comes from our connecting ourselves to that which is eternal, to our playing every person's unique role in that kisei hakavod, in upholding God's honor, in the way that we act, the way we act between us and God, the way that we act between us and others, the way that we act amongst ourselves. There's been Adam lamakom, between man and God, Adam lachavero, man and man, Adam la'atzmo, and us amongst ourselves. Each of those are crucial to our being part, our being an active participant, contributor to this eternal nation that we are. Any thoughts, questions, arguments?
I have a thought.
Please.
So I just want to thank you for this so much, because I was struggling with something and actually clarified the whole thing. So you really helped me today. So I just want to thank you for that gift.
Okay.
But I just wanted to say that, our words, our thoughts, our actions are the garments of our soul, and that just was thinking the whole time you were talking that this is just a way to bring Kiddush Hashem. This is just what we should be doing every day, and honoring Hashem and the relationship that we have with Him.
Yeah, that kisei hakavod, that glory of Hashem. Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm glad that the words were timely for whatever's going on, in your life right now.
Yeah, they were. I just answered a specific question for me.
Okay.
I'm blown away by that.
Okay. I think that I say, I'll talk about this today. But God's saying, you know what? Someone's going to be listening and they need to hear this. So therefore, Ciner, you're going to think that you chose this to talk about. But yeah, we are pawns, but we have to make our moves as best as we can. And ultimately, there is divine orchestration in all that goes on. Good. David, good to see you over there. And Leon, good to see you. And Ian, good to see you. Others, I don't see you, besides Basil and Kathy and Chai Rivka that I already acknowledged earlier. But I see Ken is here and others are here. So good. Thank you for joining, everybody. And
Rabbi, thank you for learning this afternoon. I really appreciate this.
You're welcome, David. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Tihan.
And we have somewhat reopened. We're having evening services in the parking lot. So we had last night, we're having again tonight at 6:15. If you'd like to join us, please do. Please RSVP and bring a mask and bring your own siddur. And you have to basically bring I brought my own folding chair, bring your own chair if you want to sit, or most people just stood. But we are working towards reopening. But in terms of reopening the shul, right now, unfortunately for everyone involved, Orange County's hospitalization route is still climbing on an almost daily basis. So outside, restaurants are open, everything's are open. We are open for davening outside. And as soon as those numbers stabilize and hopefully will start to decrease, that's when we'll be able to make the move inside. But right now we're davening Mincha Marav outside, and the hope is that next week we'll start to daven Shacharit also outside, at least initially. And we look forward to the time, hopefully soon, right, with that, hopefully for our davening, but hopefully for the health of everybody involved, that the numbers will start to decline and we'll be able to move ourselves inside also into the building. So,
Rabbi Ciner,
yes?
is there anybody in our immediate community who is suffering from this terrible illness?
I don't know of any. I know a number of people who have been positive and some who have been sick, some pretty sick, not hospitalization sick, but pretty sick from it. But right now, to the best of my knowledge, there is no one, those who had it have gotten over it or in the process of getting over it. And I don't know of anyone who right now is actively suffering from it.
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem, and we hope that will be the case for not just in our community, but for the entire world. Yeah.
Amen.
Okay, my friends, good seeing everybody. Please do join us tomorrow night, 6:30 for Kabbalat Shabbat, and Saturday night at 8:55 for Havdalah. And of course, we'll have Minyan tomorrow morning Minyan tonight in person in the parking lot, 6:15. Minyan tomorrow morning online at 6:30. And we're doing our best, moving forward as best as we can. And like I said, our main hope is that everyone should stay healthy and we should be able to get through this better than the way that we went in. Okay, everybody.
Hello to everybody.
A good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, Beth.
Shalom.
Thank you.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, shalom to everybody.